Okay, everybody, what's going on? Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. We've got some Seattle Seahawks news. It's not a lot. The Seahawks did not have any kind of practice that I was able to pick up on today. They didn't go through any kind of drills at the VMAC that I'm aware of, so today was relatively chill. We got some roster moves, and we got our unofficial depth chart. So unofficial is unofficial, right? We could get to game day and the team could do something completely different from what is depicted on that unofficial depth chart, but it's our first data point, right? It at least gives us something to work with. So we're going to take a look at that. First, though, let's go through these practice squad moves. Again, none of this has anything to do with the 53-man roster, so if you as a Seahawks fan decide to not really pay this all that much heed, then I certainly cannot blame you for that. None of these guys are likely to do very much, if anything, at all really for the Seahawks this season, but three guys got signed, three guys that we are familiar with. Sataoa Lomea is back, Jalen Gaines is back, Anthony Campbell is back, per Greg Bell. Lomea, we know about Lomea. He started 6 games last year. Pretty much everybody knows what's up with him. Regressed big time to the point where he may not even be on the practice squad when the season starts, but for the moment, he's back on it. Jalen Gaines, he's the guy who blocked the field goal against the Raiders. And then Anthony Campbell. I don't know very much about Anthony Campbell. I know that some Seahawks fans see something there, like something that could be NFL caliber at some point. But I don't know much about him personally, so I can't really speak too much to that, but he's back. In order to make room, we released 3 players. Damian Martinez, the running back, which I understand that he didn't have the greatest preseason, but it still kind of surprises me that we seem so ready to just completely discard Martinez when we did use a draft pick on him, and there are indications that there is some real talent there, even if it wasn't the cleanest preseason. Like, we got Jacardia Wright, to my knowledge, still on the practice squad, and I know Wright looked interesting in the preseason, but Martinez, in my book, has noticeably more talent. I'm surprised we wouldn't bet on that. Amari Kite, the tackle, is also gone. I imagine we're going to try to bring him back. I think there is some degree of interest there. I think there is some degree of appreciating what he brings to the table. And also gone is Shamar Jean-Charles, cornerback, who basically missed all of camp with the injury. So I don't know if he's going to come back or not. We might just be kind of looking to move on from Jean-Charles because he wasn't really there for us to evaluate him. And that was not a guy who came in with a guaranteed roster spot. So those are your practice squad moves. There might be more tomorrow. There might be more the next day, but that is where things sit now. Now, the main part of this video is going to be about this right here, the Seahawks unofficial depth chart for 2025. Field Goals posted it here. And it's not anything that would be surprising to anyone, I don't think. And again, there's no guarantee that when the games actually start, they're going to stick to this. Some of this stuff may be situational. Some of this stuff may be circumstantial. But let's at least look at it and see if the Seahawks feel the same way about these players as we, the fans, do. So zooming in a little bit, just focusing on the offense to start. Quarterback, exactly what we would expect. Darnold, Luck, Milrow. Running back, Walker, Charbonnet, Halani. Again, what I expected. I know some people thought Charbonnet would be the starter, but I mean, I was indifferent to it. But I didn't think that Charbonnet would start in a rushing attack that utilizes wide zone like Kubiak's does. Before we go any further into this video, I want to tell you a little bit about my friends over at Sleeper. Have you heard about the app, the Sleeper app? Download it. I'm going to let you in on a little something now. It's more than just a platform for fantasy leagues. Yes, this year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but there is so much more to this app. There are live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. News feed is lightning fast. You get updates on your favorite players and teams. There is a chat you can use in real time to engage with other users about plays and performances. All kinds of fun stuff like that over there. So download the Sleeper app, the #1 sports app today. Experience it yourself. Use promo code SBN to get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. SBN promo code. Back to the video. And then you have wide receiver JSN, Cup, Horton, Bobo, Young, White. Pretty much exactly. And again, wide receivers, it's not so much a matter of what the order is, it's a matter of the situation. There are going to be situations where we want Bobo out there instead of Horton. There are going to be situations where we want Horton out there instead of Bobo. It's just going to depend on the play, and it's going to depend on what we want the receiver to do on that play. But in terms of order, not surprising. Surprising here, though, this is a surprise. Tight end, A.J. Barner, okay. Eric Saubert listed as the second string tight end ahead of Elijah Arroyo. Now, again, I don't know if this means anything, but if it does, that is, I'm going to go ahead and say it, that is a little bit surprising and more than a little disappointing. I completely understand Arroyo not beating out A.J. Barner. Barner's had a year in the NFL. Barner has NFL experience. Barner was good last year. But you can't beat out Eric Saubert, a guy who's bounced around the league for, I think, a decade now. If that is true, and this isn't just some random listing and it doesn't mean anything, like if this means something, I'm not super enthused about that. I'm not a big Elijah Arroyo fan, but we spent a second-round pick on him. He needs to get out there. So if we get to week 1 and Saubert gets more snaps than Arroyo, that's going to definitely get my attention, and it's not going to be in a very positive way. And then Nick Collerup is listed here as, I guess, the 4th tight end. By the way, they do actually list 2 fullbacks, Robbie Oots, Brady Russell. I still don't know how we're going to make this work. Carrying 2 fullbacks and 4 tight ends in the modern day. I don't know. I hope that there is some understanding of, at some point, these guys need to be the first on the chopping block. Nick Collerup, Brady Russell, how much can they really do for us to where they're actually taking up a roster spot? I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it right now because I think we can take it early in the season, but as the season goes on, yeah, that's going to get a little bit awkward. Offensive line, starters, we already know the starters. Everything's normal there. Josh Jones is listed as the backup at both tackle spots, and Sundell is listed as the backup at both guard spots. So it certainly isn't exactly what an offensive line coach would want, but this is the best way to make it work right now. And if one of our guards get hurt, then we're going to have to play the shell game where Sundell kicks out to guard and Oluwatimi comes in at center. I don't love it, but that's the situation we find ourselves in right now. And then you've got Mason Richmond listed as the backup left tackle, or third string left tackle. Cable Do listed as the backup or third string left guard. Kind of interesting. You can see that while they liked Richmond and Cable Do enough to keep them on the roster, they clearly don't like them enough to actually put them in a situation where they might actually get on the field. So it's all just a little bit funky. Clearly, we don't think they'll make it through waivers, or else we'd stick them on the practice squad. And I think that's it for the offense. I think that's everything. Yeah. Most of it, as expected. Some of it's a little bit interesting. By the way, for those of you who have forgotten, Christian Haynes is not listed here because he's on IR. So if you're wondering what happened with Christian Haynes, he's not going to be on a depth chart until he's actually put on the 53-man. Right now, he's not. Okay, let's flip over to the defense. So down linemen, again, the way in which the defensive line in Seattle is set up right now is kind of weird because technically they have 3 down linemen, but they usually go nickel. So most of the time they're going to have 1 nose, 1 tackle, 2 edge rushers, and 2 off-ball linebackers. So it's going to be a 6-man front most of the time. And this lists it out like it's going to be 7. But defensive tackle, they have Jaron Reed. Nose tackle, they have Byron Murphy II, which once we actually get to the games, when we get to those nickel alignments I was talking about, I'm hoping, I really am, that Jaron Reed is playing a lot of nose. We've heard some things that indicate that's the case. We've heard other things that indicate it's not. That first game, we're going to learn. We're going to learn that first game. What's the plan? How are we handling nose tackle? Because, as you can see, Jonathan Hankins not listed here. We don't know when he's going to be ready. He may never be ready at this point. There's got to be a plan without him. And I'm worried that it may be a lot of nose tackle snaps for Murphy, but there are other ways to do this. Defensive end, which, again, for our purposes, is basically defensive tackle. Leonard Williams, Mike Morris. So that's looking pretty normal. Rush edge, so this is one of the outside linebackers. DeMarcus Lawrence with Derek Hall behind him and Jared Ivey behind him. A strong side linebacker, so this is the other edge rusher, Uchenna Nwosu or Boye Mafe or Derek Hall. So they list Derek Hall on both sides. And then you have Connor O'Toole hanging around here as well. Again, I don't know if Nwosu will be ready for week 1, but you can see that they've girded themselves pretty well to have depth in the event that that happens. Inside linebackers, we go Ernest Jones at middle linebacker with Surratt behind him. And then weak side, we have Tyrese Knight with Drake Thomas behind him. I'd be interested to see if something happened to Jones or Knight, what happens. We know Thomas comes in for Knight, but does Thomas go in for Jones, or does Surratt get bumped in for Jones? That's kind of interesting to me. And by the way, this was the only or on the depth chart, which indicates that, I guess it's just a way to indicate that the team is kind of not entirely sure. The way I read into this is it's going to be kind of situational. Like sometimes Nwosu will start, sometimes Mafe will start, and it doesn't really matter that much because they're both going to rotate in and out. They're not really looking at one guy being more deserving of a bunch of snaps than the other. They're just going to let the situations kind of dictate who gets out there and when, right? Cornerback, Witherspoon and Woolen starting, Job and Pritchett behind those two, and Darion Kendrick hanging out back here as well. My understanding is that Shaq Griffin is going to get added back to the roster after week 1, so we don't have to fully guarantee his deal. There's plenty of guys on this team that can go to make room for him, right? Like Connor O'Toole. If Connor O'Toole stays on this team past week 1, I would be kind of surprised. That's a obvious candidate to let go to make room for Shaq. But I do think that Shaq will be back on pretty shortly here. Safety, we go Kobe Bryant and Julian Love starting with Okada and Emin Wari behind them. Again, Emin Wari, look for him to play a lot of slot corner this year, but he is technically being listed as a safety because that's what he is. Kick, punt, hold. We know this stuff. We know long snapper, right? Myers, Dixon, Stoll. So specialists, we don't care about that. What we do care about, punt returner, kick returner. This is the moment we've been waiting for, people. Well, I've been waiting for it. Maybe you guys haven't. Punt returner. Torrey Horton listed as the #1 punt returner. Jake Bobo listed as the 2nd. Definitely super into the idea of Horton returning punts. I don't know about Bobo, though. That one's, I need to see that a few times before I buy in. Kick returner, George Halani. Not bad. That's not a bad way to resolve it. Derek Young as the other kick returner. I can dig that too. I think both those guys can get it done. When you look at what's asked of kick returners, I think both those guys should be all right. And that's your unofficial depth chart for the start of the season. We'll see what actually happens on game day, but looks pretty reasonable to me. Couple of interesting wrinkles, couple of interesting notes here and there. Let me know what you guys think down below. I will be seeing you guys soon. Should be streaming tonight over on Twitch. Have a video on Bleacher Report this morning, and should have another one tomorrow morning. Keep an eye out. Go Hawks. See you guys soon.